Recording. Yeah, cool. All right, now you go for it.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So for those of you that aren't familiar with GreenSpark, just to quickly touch on our background. So GreenSpark Solar is a renewable energy developer, specifically a solar developer and installer. Right now, pretty heavily concentrated in New York State for a number of reasons that we're going to get into as we move forward. But the market in New York is awesome. It's also our backyard. We're located just outside of Rochester in Ontario, New York, with future plans to move our headquarters to downtown Rochester. So coming soon. We've been installing and developing and designing renewable energy projects all over the Northeast for the last 22 plus years. As I mentioned, right now we are pretty heavily focused in New York State. We're deploying solar at an amazing clip. We also do some work with EV chargers, some battery backup. Those can get a little bit more complicated at times, so I'll save that for another discussion that we have another day. But just know that we have that available. And one thing I just like to mention to everybody is, in addition to all the great work we're doing, we are a certified B Corp, and so we are committed to using our business as a force for good and make a positive impact on the community in more ways than one. Next slide, please. Okay. So, you know, why go solar, right? That is the question of the hour. And I just wanted to talk real briefly about, some of the things that I hear from customers that I work with in regards to, why they're looking into solar and in many cases why they're actually moving forward and going solar. The number one thing I hear these days really is being driven by sustainability and sustainability policies at the corporate level, or maybe a supply chain requirement that has, you're doing business for a company that has a sustainability policy that sort of flows down to the work that you do. That has become much bigger than what historically has been the number one reason, and that is cost and control, right? Cost and control has historically been the driver, right? Right now, we all pay the utility company for our power, whatever they say, and whenever they say it, and that's just how it is, right? With a product like solar, you can put that in and control all or some of your power costs by fixing them, by prepaying for them, by installing a solar package. We'll get into the details of the economics of that and what that looks like, but there's a million different reasons why people start to look into it. Those are some of the biggest ones that we're hearing these days, though. Next slide, please. That sort of correlates directly with state policy, right? And as many of you are probably aware, that we have some pretty ambitious goals in New York State. 70% renewables by 2030, 100% emissions free by 2040. Those are tall orders, and so deploying solar is a great way to in part achieve that goal. The upside of these great policies from the state is the pretty historic incentives that are available right now, to deploy a solar project. So I wanna get into that a little deeper because that is probably the biggest thing that people want to understand about, if they're going to make the investment in solar, what do the costs look like? What do the incentives look like? And what does that mean for me or for my company? Next slide, please. So as many of you probably heard a couple years ago, the Inflation Reduction Act, or the IRA, was passed and has had a huge impact on our company and our industry. The biggest thing is it extended the investment tax credit, or the solar tax credit, in this case, for another 10 years, right? And provided that you abide by the requirements, you get a base tax credit of 30% on your solar project. So whatever the cost to do your solar project, 30% of that can be returned to your business in the form of a tax credit. And another awesome part of the Inflation Reduction Act was that they also included a direct pay option. So for any company that is a non-for-profit, a municipality, something along those lines, historically, they can't take tax credits, right? They don't have tax liability. Those organizations are now allowed to participate in the direct pay program, where they would receive a check for their tax credit. So every business is eligible to take advantage of the tax credit. And in addition, there's also some tax credit adders. We're not going to dive too deep into that today, but if you qualify to do a solar project, you're getting a 30% tax credit if you can meet the requirements of the domestic content. For example, you can get an additional 10%. So your tax credit raises from 30 to 40%. If you qualify for low-income communities, you can get another 10%. So there's adders to the base tax credit that some people will qualify based on location or based on how their project is set up. And so you can get 30 to 50% of whatever the cost is right away with your tax credits, which is pretty amazing. Next slide, please, Chris. In addition to that, right? So we just talked about the federal tax credit. In addition to that, for-profit companies can take advantage of depreciation, and they can take advantage of bonus depreciation. So the IRS maker schedule for solar is a pretty fast write-down. It's a 5-year schedule. So you're generally recouping that depreciation pretty quickly. Right now, this year, bonus depreciation is available. I know we're sort of out of time for this year, but projects that were completed in this calendar year could take up to 60% of the basis as depreciation in year one and take the rest over the next 4 years. Next year, the bonus depreciation will be at 40%. So you can take 40% in year one of your depreciation and then take the rest over the next 4 years. So that's very helpful. Combining the base tax credit just at 30 and the depreciation usually accounts for over 50% of the actual project costs. And if you get some of those tax credit adders, you might be up to 60, 70%. In addition to that, there are incentives available through New York State, through NYSERDA's New York Sun program. Grants are given to solar projects, and those grants are dictated sheerly by the size of the system that you put in. They pay on a per watt basis, but that's an upfront grant that helps reduce your upfront cost to make that solar project happen. In addition to that, as if that wasn't rich enough, there is also some programs they don't necessarily apply to everybody, but for those that do, they can make the incentives even richer. The USDA has a program called Rural Energy for America. So businesses that are in a rural area by address that are also classified as a small business or an agricultural business can take advantage of a federal grant program in addition to the other incentives that we mentioned. So in short, it can be very financially lucrative if you're able to take advantage of just the base incentives that are available, or if you're able to do that plus the REAP grant, it gets pretty awesome. So Chris, if you want to click to the next slide. Just a quick visual here, right? Like this is who's eligible. Everybody that's address is in the green area is eligible for the REAP program by location, right? The second part of the qualification is you either have to be in the agricultural business or you have to be classified as a small business in New York State. But that leaves a lot of businesses at the base level eligible for this program. Next slide, please. So I wanted to show you all exactly what I'm talking about. So all those incentives that we just talked about and how they would impact a organization and the financials that are associated with doing a project like this. So a project that we recently completed is for Porware Inc. They're located out in Macedon. They put a 440 kW solar array on their roof, which 440 kW probably doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people on this call. But if you see the picture that is to the right side of your page here, just gives you sort of a visual of what that looks like in terms of solar panels. So they basically filled up their roof with solar, and they were able to offset 100% of their, or I'm sorry, 80% of their electricity costs. We're going to get into this on the next slide a little bit, but they were able to take advantage of all the incentives and take advantage of the REAP program, which basically resulted in them and having net zero cost, right? So they paid for the project, they got all the incentives back, and they got back as much as they put into the project. So their savings is they're paid, the system paid for itself within a couple of years, and their savings is just going off the charts. Chris, if you want to click down to the next slide. So here's a breakdown of that system that we were just looking at, right? That's uh, um, this is a good starting point because that's an average size system for a manufacturing organization. I will put a little asterisk here for everybody that's on this call, whether it's through our company or if you're talking to another company. Somebody can do an analysis for you to see what size system you need and what impact that might have on your costs. This is just one example, right? So this company spends about or their solar array anyway is going to save about $50,000 a year in electricity costs. And so if that's way more than you're currently spending or way less, like you can sort of true up these numbers in your head. But this system cost all in just about $900,000, right? And that is a turnkey price that includes all the parts and pieces and labor and building permits and inspections and utility company interconnection, all that taken care of. So a turnkey price about $900,000. We were able to get the NYSERDA New York Sun funding for this project, which we do for 100% of our projects. That reduced their costs, their upfront costs, by just over $109,000, right? And then they paid to have the system installed, so they had about $800,000 or so out. Once they got to their next tax filing, they're able to claim a federal tax credit. In this case, they qualified for $270,000 as a federal tax credit. The value of the depreciation for this company, so depreciation is a deduction, not a tax credit, but the cash value of that is just about $215,000 in this case. So after they installed their system, filed for their tax incentives, their net cost is right around $300,000. So roughly a third of the project. So 2/3 paid for through incentives, a third left over. In many cases, that's the end of the story. That's the money that you're financing long term, or that's your capex over a long term. And then you just start looking at those savings, right? In this case, they're saving about $50,000 a year. That's just chipping away at what their net investment in the project was. Portware did apply for a REAP grant, and they were awarded, and they received the full amount of their net cost after the incentives, actually slightly over that, as a REAP grant. And so their net cost after 1 year is $0. It's amazing. It's really amazing. And they're saving $50,000 a year on their electricity bill. So not, like I said before, not everyone qualifies for the REAP grant, but even if you look at this, if you're looking at getting 2/3 of the cost of your system paid for through incentives, it's extremely healthy. It makes the return very, very strong from a financial perspective, in addition to helping to meet your sustainability goals and helping to reduce your carbon footprint. I will say one of the cool parts about seeing this industry and this type of technology evolve over time is, like, we used to do it for one reason. Now we may do it for other reasons, but now there's new reasons that are just coming to light that are like things that we never anticipated. For example, when your organization is recruiting new talent to come into your company, a lot of people really now are very impressed and want to work for a company that is forward thinking, that is looking at their carbon impact, that is providing potentially a charging location for their electric or hybrid vehicle. So there's a lot of cool things that are coming to light in that front, and things that I hadn't anticipated being a driver for these programs. Next slide, please, Chris. So just a quick plug for us. There's when you're talking about going solar, and we just looked at a project that was, call it $1 million or so. That's a lot of money, and not everybody has CapEx funds to commit to that, and we understand that. And sometimes you might have CapEx funds, but you don't want to commit it, right? You want a different path. So we do have financing available for solar projects specifically. that can probably meet just about anyone's needs. Two of our most popular products. One, we have a partnership with Tompkins Community Bank, and Tompkins offers zero down loans up to $1 million. We can go higher, but that's the standard program. So zero down up to $1 million borrowed with terms anywhere from 5 to 20 years. The rates are pretty competitive with market. I haven't looked at it very recently, but I would guess they're probably right in the mid 8s right now on that product. So if you want to do this product or project and you want to finance it and then take your incentives and pay off your loan, that's always an option. The other product that seems to be real popular is a lease to own product. Lease to own also offers a zero down fixed payment, and then there's a small buyout fee. And the leases are structured as either 6 or 7 year leases. So it's a very short term path to ownership. One of the things that the lease offers is tax appetite, right? If you don't have the tax appetite to take all those tax incentives that are available for the project, you can have the bank finance the project. They technically own it for the first 6 or 7 years and lease it to you. They'll strip out all the tax incentives and take them directly and reduce your payment accordingly. That way, if you either don't have tax liability, you don't want to deal with the tax end of taking those incentives, you can make it no muss, no fuss. It's pretty straightforward. And the nice part about doing a lease to own is because it's still a lease product, you can write off your lease payments. So there's some upside on that front. I've run the financials on cash, loan, lease, and like see where you end up. Loan and lease are neck and neck with each other. Sans a few times when rates have been a little bit different on the products, but they're pretty close to each other in terms of what your final out of pocket cost is. Next slide, please.
We had one question come in
Sure.
that I feel like would be easier to address now. And actually, it's from our friend Brett. But for the case study you just talked about, was the REAP grant awarded after project completion or retroactively?
So the way the REAP program works is you have to apply before you spend any money on the project. Once you get your application in, you then build the project and you have to front or finance the funds for building the project. And then the REAP grant comes in and to repay you after the fact.
Cool.
But in 90% of the cases, the status of your REAP grant, whether you've been approved or not before you go to construction. So if that is a part of the decision-making process, you can just sort of hold all activity until you get the results back from your application.
Cool. Thank you. I didn't want to let that one get too far away from the case study. So
No worries. Great. So just a little summary about us here. We talked about some of this stuff, but just in short, like if you're looking to investigate a solar project, we'd love to help you out. I doubt that there's very many companies that are as qualified and experienced as we are in this area doing these types of commercial and industrial projects. So we'd love to talk to you. We'd love to show you what options are available for your organization. Please feel free to reach out on the next slide, which Chris, you can just hop to right now. Next slide has my contact information. Feel free to send me an email, give me a phone call. We're happy to talk it through.
fantastic. Thank you, Doug.
You're
I'll
welcome.
also be sending out this deck and slides or deck and recording after this event. So don't feel like you have to scramble to write down everything. And next up, we have Brett Peters. So it's all you, Brett.
Cool. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I'll just shout out GreenSpark again. We have a vetted installer pool with my organization, and I've sent a lot of leads to GreenSpark, and we have a really good relationship. And I've only heard great things from clients I've sent over there that have worked with them. So yeah, really, really +1 to everything GreenSpark does, and we're happy to have that relationship. But yeah, I'm Brett Peters. I'm the commercial energy advisor with the Finger Lakes Energy Hub, aka Climate Solutions Accelerator, aka AMPed. So if you see AMPed or Climate Solutions, just keep it in your head. It's essentially the same program, just different branding. Next slide, please, Chris. And yeah, next one. So as I said, we are the regional clean energy hub for the Finger Lakes region. So we were awarded our hub grant by NYSERDA back in 2022. We are a nonprofit organization. We're directly, funded by NYSERDA. They provide about 2/3 of our budget. So as a nonprofit, there's no sort of commission. All of our, services are free. We offer a consultation call for people where they can schedule anytime to discuss their project with one of our expert energy advisors. So like I said, I cover commercial, but we also have a residential advisor and a multifamily advisor. So if you have potentially like a mixed use building or something, that would kind of be a tag team situation between me and Lee, the multifamily advisor. And we are going to be around for a while. We're currently 2022 to 2026 for our hub contract, and we are expecting to be renewed until 2030. NYSERDA has a lot of faith in the program, and we've had some really great turnaround and results in the region, just getting people signed up for these energy efficiency programs for their home and businesses. So yeah, big props to NYSERDA, and we love kind of being the direct local contact with NYSERDA for people who are looking to take advantage of funding from the state for energy projects. Yep. So some of our goals, supporting our community transition to vehicles and buildings. So we look at everything from HVAC, solar, even EV and fleet electrification. Like I said, we really double down on that free and impartial support. So you really have, nothing to lose by booking that initial consultation call with us. I'll also say there are other energy hubs. So we are just the Finger Lakes region, so the 9-county region, kind of bordering Monroe County. But if you are in another region like the Southern Tier or Western New York, kind of Erie area, there's a hub for every region. So if you are in a different area, we're happy to kind of pair you to your local hub, but we have connections to all the hubs bordering us. Yeah, next slide, please. Like I said, we offer that free energy advisor call service. I will have a QR code at the end if you'd like to book a call at your convenience, where we can just kind of talk through your project and see what you might be eligible for as far as state and federal funding. Like I said, we have that vetted contractor pool, which GreenSpark is a part of, but we also partner with some HVAC installers as well for insulation, HVAC replacement, as well as commercial spaces. We also offer some tax filing support, so that direct pay that Doug was talking about. I'd be the person to talk to if you were interested in getting pre-approved for that direct pay. And, come tax season, if someone's trying to claim a tax credit for their newly installed heat pump or solar system, we're happy to provide that support for the whole project lifespan. Next slide. Yep. So this is a great program, On-Site Energy and Technical Assistance, TAP. I actually had a conversation with another commercial energy advisor at a different hub, and he's like, why isn't everyone aware of this? Why isn't everyone talking about this? The DOE is trying to get the word out about this, so we really need to make sure everyone's on the same page. So put simply, On-Site Energy is a federal program to help industrial facilities increase the adoption of on-site clean energy. And definition-wise, on-site energy storage is just simply generating and storing electricity and heat directly at your own facility. So that can be solar, right on your own facility. That can be taking heat from your machinery, your manufacturing process, and capturing that heat and storing it and using it to actually, heat and power your buildings. So the DOE has a lot of faith in this on-site energy program, and I'll kind of break down how to take advantage of getting connected to the DOE for this funding. So next slide, please. So as part of that on-site energy program, DOE has this network of TAPs, technical assistance partnerships, to provide manufacturers with access to that expertise around the country. So if you're interested in getting kind of a site walkthrough or just a feasibility assessment for your site, the TAP program would provide that. So currently, I think New York and Pennsylvania share a TAP admin. It's actually Penn State University, but if you connect with them, they can connect you with a more of a local expert to provide that TAP feasibility study. And they can look at many different areas, including, that combined heat and power, heat thermal capture, geothermal, heat pump conversion, renewables, solar, waste heat to power. There's tons of other areas that can even fit on the slide. So really, if you have any kind of sketch of a project in mind for your facility, TAP is happy to come out and assess that feasibility and provide that study for you. Next slide, please. Yep, so that's the contact. And I think these slides will be sent out afterwards. But if anyone needs Jim's contact info, you can always just email me and I'm happy to connect you. And again, if you have the energy advisor call with us and we learn a bit about your project, we're always happy to reach out directly to AMP as well. And obviously we have a direct through line with NYSERDA, so we can always involve NYSERDA on making sure that your project is, being properly cared for and happening on time. So the second kind of piece of this TAP program are these industrial training and assessment center implementation grants. So this is funding directly from the DOE, designed for small and medium manufacturers to implement recommendations made in these site assessments. So first step is getting your TAP site assessment done, and then their recommendations can be directly used for applications for this implementation grant. These are funded by the bipartisan infrastructure law. There's currently no end date on these grants, as far as I can tell. They kind of are just going through rounds of approval right now. And these grant awards are up to 300,000 per manufacturer, can cover multiple projects. So it's pretty common to see, maybe like a VFD and a thermal energy storage system combined into one project, or HVAC and building controls, or solar and HVAC. But yeah, that's the max for the grant, and there is a cost share. So, for example, if your project is $300,000, the DOE will pay 150, and you will pay the other 150. But it is not taken into account, tax credits or rebates or anything like that. It's just that upfront funding. So next slide, please. Just some eligibility requirements. So must be domestic. There is a gross annual sales cap, and there is kind of an energy bill, pretty wide energy bill margin, losing the word for that. Must have under 500 employees, and nothing retroactive. So you must, apply for the program and be approved before you can, access this grant. Next slide, please. And like I said, applications are accepted on a rolling basis. Just in this most previous round, we had Unither Manufacturing awarded a grant in Rochester for some HVAC and thermal energy improvements in their facility. And next review is January 2025. So if you're looking to apply for this grant in the next round, you do have time to get your TAP study done and maybe get some site assessments and put together an application package. And like I said, we can help with that. And the grants can go directly to HVAC, lighting, on-site power, electricity demand, heavy machinery. I believe also solar is one. I just did not put it on here. Next slide. And some other programs to help subsidize your costs. So if for whatever reason you're not happy with your TAP study, the state offers this FlexTech program, which is pretty common for large buildings to go through a FlexTech study. It is subsidized by the state. And the recommendations in FlexTech are approved by the DOE to be accepted for these ITAC grants. So you can either use a TAP study or a FlexTech study for your recommendations for your grant application. FlexTech is customized to your project goals, and the studies can include anything, with energy usage, creating a climate action plan, greenhouse gas emissions, clean heating and cooling. So one advantage of the FlexTech is that, maybe by creating a climate action plan, you can really visualize that decarbonization journey for your facility and take those implementations that maybe the TAP wouldn't look at. And like I said, we partner with a couple different providers for the flex tech studies, and we're happy to always, connect you with a provider. And the cost share is sector dependent. NYSERDA will pay for half of the study cost, up to 75% if you are in a DAC. And I can definitely help check if your facility does meet those requirements. Applications do require some kind of budget estimate for the study, and they do have templates on their website that I'm happy to share for what is an example study budget. Your budget can be zero if you want. And you can just say, I don't want to pay anything. I just want, whatever NYSERDA will provide. And again, like I mentioned, ITAC cannot stack with other federal grants. So for example, I don't think you could use ITAC and a REAP grant for the same project. So consider utility funding. So RG&E, National Grid, NYSEG, all of the big utility providers do offer industrial rebates. Up to 50% of eligible project costs for lighting, HVAC, and building. So, for example, if you're doing a ITAC project and receiving a grant to upgrade your HVAC, if it meets the requirements of RG&E for energy efficiency, you can get some money back from RG&E or whatever your utility is to help subsidize that back end cost. And very simple with RG&E, it's just you fill out the application, you get a check in the mail. Really straightforward. Yeah. And also tax credits. I know Doug touched a bit on the solar credits, but something great is this newer energy efficiency commercial buildings credit, which is part of the IRA. So for a new construction or retrofit, you can actually claim a deduction of up to 5 per square foot. It does require an energy assessment before and after implementing to prove that you're meeting their energy efficiency requirements of the commercial buildings. But it's very common to stack this energy efficiency credit with solar or not solar, sorry, geothermal or a lighting upgrade or something like that. And if you are looking at geothermal, there's that 30% base credit like solar, and that can jump to up to 50% as long as you meet some other requirements. So if your building's in a former energy community, former coal or natural gas community, low income community, DAC, or if you're using, domestic content and labor, those are all qualifiers for that bonus credit. And again, you could receive an ITAC grant, and then if you meet the requirements of putting in a geothermal system or the energy efficiency tax credit requirements, you can claim some money back the year after install and carry that forward for up to 10 years. As far as the accelerated depreciation, I am aware of it, not an expert. I would definitely recommend talking to a tax expert, like with GreenSpark, if you wanted to claim the depreciation credit. So to summarize, meet with AMP, schedule a quick, 15, 30-minute call just to talk through your project, see if there's any funding sources that you're missing. Connect with TAP or FlexTech for your site visit, which is heavily subsidized by either NYSERDA or the DOE. And actually implement your project, stacking that ITAC funding and your credits and rebates. And should be a slide here. Leave it up for a second if anyone wants to scan a quick 30-minute phone call with me just to talk through a project. And you can also reach out to our general email there, hub@climategfl, or just call our general inquiry number. And we can definitely connect you to different programs. But yeah, that's it for me. So thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Brett. I appreciate everyone hanging out and especially Doug and Brett. I feel like this is like gold for energy nerds. So thank you. And we will also send these slides out just to repeat that. But if you don't get a chance to scan. And up next is Kathleen. So Kathleen, I will leave it here and kind of let you get started.
Okay. All right, do we have the next slide? Okay, so I probably should have stayed there. Both Chris and I work for NextCorps, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with NextCorps, but we have a lot of things going on at NextCorps, many of which relate to climate. We are the MEP Center for the Finger Lakes region. The MEP network is the Manufacturing Extension Partnership Network that is funded through NIST. The goal is to help small and medium manufacturers, keep them in business, help them grow, help them become more productive. Every state has an MEP center. New York State has chosen to divide the state into 10 centers, and we cover the Finger Lakes region. If you are outside the Finger Lakes region and want to connect to your MEP, please let me know. We can get you connected to the right people. There's one in Buffalo. There's one in the southern tier. There's we also at NextCorps, we run a bunch of accelerators for startup companies. One of them is focused on optics imaging and photonics. Some of our other ones that Chris mentioned are focused on climate tech. We work with startups that are trying to get hardware devices out there to help thermal storage, hydrogen, even better instrumentation to monitor air quality and temperature in your building so you can more closely control your HVAC systems. One of the things we're able to do with manufacturers in our region is try to get them grant money through the MEP. And the manufacturers can be startups, they can be established manufacturers, they just have to be fewer than 500 people. So fall in that small and medium manufacturer range. There are programs for the utility that are a little different than the ones Brett mentioned. They're only administered through the MEPs. If your utility is National Grid, NYSEG, and RG&E, there is grant money available. I will say that the RG&E NYSEG funds are currently on hold. They ran out of money this year. We're hoping it will be refunded next year, or if not, the year after that. But National Grid is still active. You have to be a manufacturer, so your company NAICS code has to start with a 31, 32, or 33. And the money can only be used for work reimbursement. It's reimbursement funds for work with consultants. So it can't pay for equipment or software, but it can pay if you're working with someone to design a system for you or do an analysis for you or come in and help you make things more productive. So these are great grants, especially when paired with many of the other incentives that Doug and Brett talked about. They can cover hardware, we can cover some of the consulting fees. Reimbursement occurs after the project completion. So if you're interested in any of these, please let me know. National Grid, like I said, is actively taking grant applications. If you are not a customer of RG&E or NYSEG, or if you are right now where they don't have the grants available, NextCorps does have some small grants available. The MAP program, the MPP program, those grant amounts can go up to about $40,000 depending on the type of project you do. So $40,000 reimbursement of a project that's about $65,000. NextCorps has grants that are good for $5,000 on a project that's $25,000. So we can give you 20% of a project up to $5,000. So if you're interested, if you're doing some work with consultants, please let us know and we can try and connect you to some grant money. Next slide, Chris. So I mentioned, we're trying to help these small manufacturers increase productivity, grow. These are just some examples of the types of projects and how the money works. Productivity projects get a 40% reimbursement. Growth projects get a little higher reimbursement. And if you combine the two, you can get a 60% reimbursement. So really we look for, if we can combine productivity and growth projects together, that's really what we're trying to do for people. All right, next slide. Other programs within New York State, if you are a manufacturer, if you are looking to expand something that will add people and you would like to get clean power to do it, you want to talk to Recharge New York. It's New York Power Authority. They can give you an allocation of hydropower at a lower cost than you can get through your utility. They will work with people. They will help you figure out how much power to apply for. And it's helpful if you're looking to expand or if you're looking to keep employees, keep a line up and running, making some changes. It's worth reaching out to Recharge to see if you can get some of your power at a lower cost. And other programs that are run through the utilities or demand response programs. Brett mentioned storage, energy storage, whether it's thermal or battery. If you have those on site, you are now able to participate in some of the demand response programs. Because what that does is allows you to shift your loads. You can make ice at night and reduce your cooling loads during the day by using that for your HVAC, for air conditioning, which means your power consumption during the day will drop. And then if you participate in these demand response programs, your electricity is usually less expensive. So if you have any questions about those programs, let us know. We can connect you to the right people. All right, next one, Chris. This is just a summary. Both Doug and Brett mentioned the tax credits, the production tax credits. I just wanted to have this here because it lists all the different technologies that you can use it for. And some of them you might not think of: municipal solid waste or tidal or biogas. All of these technologies are eligible either for the investment tax credit and the production tax credit. And like Doug said and Brett said, if you're a nonprofit and you're not able to take this off on your taxes, they will write you a check directly. So keep that in mind when you're planning projects. Don't feel like you're not able to take advantage of it because you're a nonprofit. All right. And just a plug here for our Scale for Climate program. Scale for Climate works with climate tech startups, and we work with them when they're ready to start scaling up manufacturing. We try to help them. We try to give them education so we can make the scale-up process less painful for them and hopefully make them successful as they try to bring their product from a prototype to full-scale production. One of the ways we do this is we're developing a database of suppliers, contract manufacturers, people that are willing to work with early-stage companies, climate tech innovators, no matter where they are. If you're a manufacturer, you're interested in working with climate tech startups because you would like your employees to know they're making a difference. They're working with companies that are actually trying to help solve problems. Please reach out to me if you'd like to be included in the database or just want more information. We can hopefully get you added to our database and maybe working with some of these climate tech startups so they can use your clean energy to make climate tech products. And I just wanted to say thank you to Doug and Brett for all the information. It was really, really great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like it's Rochester's, and there's, I mean, many areas, but there's like a lot of folks working on similar parts of the problems, and kind of with all three of us, you can get even more savings and a bigger picture of what else is out there. But yeah, we can open it up now to any questions if we have any, folks. So I know, or you can use the Q&A function or the chat, I guess whichever is easiest. I'm kind of monitoring both. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen here. I'll do my best to monitor either. But again, we will send this all out. I'll send this all out later today once the recording is processed. And a huge thanks to Doug and Brett again, because I know October is the busy season. I feel like September kicks off and then everyone's back to school and going to conferences, and it just keeps going until we hit the holidays.
And Chris, you're going to share should we put our emails in the chat, or you're going to share in the...
I will make sure to include it. I think, oh, yours was not in the chat. Your email was not in there. Yeah, drop yours in the chat now, and I'll make sure to include people's our contact information. Cool. And just make here, I'm going to copy this into the language.
And if anybody's outside the Finger Lakes region and wants to be connected to their energy hub, their NEP, please let us know. We can make those connections for you. And Brett, I think there is also an IAC Industrial Assessment Center at Syracuse. So people in Central New York, that one's probably closer for you than if you're in Buffalo. But we do have a couple places people can reach out to for those assessments.
Yeah. Correct. And the IAC in Syracuse, I think that it's a training program, right? So they do the free assessments.
They do the pre-assessments. They work with students. So they're trying to get students trained to go out and do all these. Yeah.
It's crazy how much is out there. And I feel like as we go to more stuff and do more events like this, just the state of New York and the federal programs are doing a crazy amount of support. Like actually like half of the tax stuff that you talked about, I didn't even know. And I like to think that I'm fairly well versed in this kind of stuff, but I've been pretty focused on startups for the past couple of years. So who knows? But,
yeah, lots of amazing stuff out there. This is a great presentation. I learned some stuff too.
yeah. Let's see what we got. Small businesses less than 100 employees can the JGGNY for assessments. Oh, these are our friends at
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
and the other thing is if you're in the Southern Tier AMT, so there is a special program for the Appalachia region. AMT has details of that. It's to try to make the manufacturers there more efficient with their use of electricity, but also promote all of these technologies. So, there are even regional programs. They don't all apply to the Finger Lakes, but if you're in one of the regions that counts as Appalachia, let me know. We can connect you to the right people, whether it's through Insight or AMT. Arise is the program. So if you look, I believe AMT has it on their website, the Arise initiative. That's a really great program as well that some people are eligible for.
Yeah. So when in doubt, just check in with any of us and we can connect it to some folks. I'm gonna give it like 30 more seconds for some questions, but I don't think we're at that point. I wanted to thank everyone again for tuning in. We know this stuff is really niche, and we're really glad you could jump in and kind of hopefully you found something useful and something new. All right. Well, thank you again to all our speakers. If you want to learn more, feel free to reach out to any of us, and we'll be following up with an email later today. All right. Thanks again, and have a good rest of your Wednesday, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Cool.
Bye.